Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. I hope everyone is doing well tonight. I'm just gonna, as you're coming in, as we say every week, put in the chat where you're tuning in from so we can see where people are tuning in from. Hey there, cuz. Good to see you. Good evening, good evening, good evening, everybody. It is a wonderful night. It was a beautiful day over here on the East Coast. Hey, Vicky. Good to see you in the place. Those of y'all in the Philadelphia area, in the Chester/Philadelphia/Delaware, if you're looking for somebody that can do your hair, all kinds of styles. She's on here as Dance Prima Donna, and if you go there, you can get to her business page. Check her out. She's an excellent stylist. So I always like to support small businesses, and especially our Black-owned businesses, our women-owned businesses, and especially when they're doing a great job. So you can't promote to everybody because sometimes people not really about the business, but that one I can vouch for. So check her out. All right, well, I have a special surprise a little bit later, but it's not really a surprise. I'm gonna give you a little bit of heads up. So y'all know that my husband was on here last week, and he and I were talking about his war with depression. He always says he's at war with clinical depression, and he gave a lot of really good tools for fighting it. And so the whole purpose of his coming on last week was to share with everyone some of the tools that he has used as he is at war with depression. And so on that broadcast, we answered most of the questions that were in the chat, but there was one question that we missed. And when I saw what the question was, I thought, that question is actually worth a whole session about, because the question is, how does marriage continue to grow when one person is struggling with depression? And so the thing about marriage is, and particularly if you are a part of the Christian faith background, when people are married, the two become one. And so it's almost like there's kind of not such a thing as one person having depression, because when the one has it, you better believe that the other is impacted by it, impacted in a variety of ways. And sometimes when you're the one who is not personally, at war with depression, but your spouse is, and you love that person, and it hurts to see them hurting. And it really hurts to see them hurting and you feel powerless to do anything about it. And so that then starts to wear on you. And that can also cause you to become depressed. That can also cause you to begin, to have some depression yourself. And sometimes, if that's not your background, like for me, I was always, I'm not gonna say was, because I'm still here and I still am pretty much a happy person. There's not a whole lot, it takes a lot to get to me. It really does. But when I see my family hurting, it doesn't take as much to get to me when it's my family involved. So my husband, my children, like if something is impacting them, if they are struggling, I'm struggling. If they're hurting, I'm hurting. And it's important when you care for people who have depression or any other kind of mental health challenge, to kind of not allow yourself to kind of get to a dark place yourself. Because if both of you are in a very dark place, it becomes increasingly more difficult to come out of it. So I say this every week, but I feel like I need to, like when y'all see me like looking up and down, it's like on my phone, I'm on Instagram, on my computer, I'm on Facebook. So I'm trying to engage both wherever people might be tuning in. And so, so I just want to say that. But so when we talk about, how does marriage continue to grow when one person is particularly diagnosed with a clinical depression, or if they're diagnosed with any other kind of mental health challenge, I am not going to lie to you, it is a journey and it can be hard. But I think that marriage in general, even if both of you, if neither of you has any kind of depression or any kind of mental health challenge, marriage is it's hard, right? It takes a lot, because when you think about it, marriage is two people coming together as one. But even though you're coming together as one, both of you got your stuff, right? Both of you have your baggage from other relationships, from how you grew up, from to how you witnessed marriage in your household, or how you didn't witness marriage in your household. And so you're trying to figure it out. And so for me personally, and if you've read my book, The Scream Within: Mental Health and Clergy Marriage's Journey of a Pastor's Spouse, you will have read about just how difficult it was for me in the beginning, because I was so busy trying to figure out the whole wife thing, right? Like, what does that really look like? And I really was striving to be a good wife. Like, I really wanted to be a good wife to my husband, but at the same time, I wasn't necessarily fully sure what that meant or what that looked like. And so I think that very often in our society, many of us have grown up with these fairy tales. And originally, I thought that those fairy tales really only impacted women, that, because we grew up seeing these fairy tales um of like Cinderella, and the woman trying to get the prince who is going to sweep her away, and be her knight in shining armor and all that kind of stuff. But it wasn't until my husband also brought up the fact that it doesn't only negatively impact women, it also puts this pressure on men to be these knights in shining armor that's gotta come in and save the day. And it treats both as if they're not human. It treats both as if they're not coming in to a relationship with stuff. And I think what, in partial answer to the question that was asked, how does marriage continue to grow when one person is struggling with depression? One answer is that you have to kind of come into it understanding that you that both of you have some flaws, or both of you have some challenges in different areas, and that it's not just the one person, but many times both parties have some stuff that they have had to deal with. And when you're coming from different backgrounds, different types of upbringing, as a couple, you have to sort of come to some understanding that you're going to be okay to an extent with some of the stuff that the other person is bringing to the table. Um, and a lot of times it can be little things, right? It can be, I don't know, one of you grew up, with the paper towel coming forward, and the other one grew up with the paper towel coming underneath. And then that's like, it gets annoying because it's like, no, it's supposed to be hung this way. No, it's supposed to be hung that way. That's like a a small example, but sometimes those little small things can actually develop into bigger things. So I'm sort of killing time a little bit, because I'm waiting for my husband to join us. He's he had another meeting, but I asked him if he would just jump on, real quick to kind of talk from his perspective about this topic and about this question, because I think is very important. But before he comes on, one of the things that I wanted to talk about as a part of this question is that, when you're in a marriage, you're in a relationship, and a relationship requires more than one person. You cannot be in a relationship if only one person is doing all the work. That's not a relationship. I'm not sure what that is, but a relationship means that there's going to be some give and take. Now, there's not people, say or think that marriage is 50-50, right? But that's not true. That's not always the case. As if you stay married long enough, you will understand that sometimes it's 50-50, but more often it's going to be, 30-70, and it can flip flop. It's going to be 60-40. It's going to kind of flip flop. So, for example, when I was in seminary, and my children were still kind of, they were still in school, in primary, like middle school, high school. My husband did the lion's share of like work in the house. He was the one that was home when they came home from school. He was the one that cooked dinner. He was the one that was helping with homework. He did the lion's share in the house at that time. But before that, when he was in school, it was the other way around. So, it's not always an equal balance. And so in a relationship, they say it takes two to tango, right? Both parties have to have the desire for the relationship to work and for the relationship to continue. If both of you doesn't have that, if only one person in the relationship is trying to make things work, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. And so it has to be both people that are determined to try to make things work. So I wanted to put out some synonyms for the word relationship. And it's important for us to really get a gist of what a relationship is. So a relationship is not, one person is the knight in shining armor that comes and saves the day. Marriage is more than a day for you to dress up like a princess and go to the ball. Because if I always tell people who are getting ready to get married, or who are newly married or getting ready to get married in particular, put more in the marriage than you do the ceremony. because we put a lot into the ceremony. But when you put energy and effort into the marriage, you will see each other intentionally. You will know each other's needs. You will be able to support each other on a level that nobody else outside could. And that you're going to be striving to do that. And so, so some synonyms for relationship are affiliation. You know, you're affiliated. You're working together to pursue a common purpose and goal in the marriage. Alliance. You're forging. It's a partnership, and in partnerships, you don't always agree. You know, and you both there's a give and take on both parts. It's an association, a collaboration, right? You're coming together in order to reach or achieve a common goal in the relationship. So, and it's a partnership, it's a union, it's cooperation. Now, always a caveat for me in marriage. I am one who, you know, I want to see marriages work, right? I want to see marriages survive. But again, it takes two. And if in a marriage, one person is being abused in any way, I would, even as a minister of the gospel, I would never tell you to stay in that situation. I would never tell you to try to even work it out. If you're being abused, whether it's mentally or physically, you were not created to be anybody's doormat. And so I would say, you know, check into domestic violence shelters and places that can help you get out of that situation. All right. So my husband is about to come in. And let me just get him in here. All right. I'm glad that we're going to be both able to kind of come back, again. And babe, I'm just kind of going through, going over a few things before you get on. Don't forget to join us on Instagram too when you get set up. But both parties have to be committed to making the marriage work. But if you're being abused, no, get out of that. And I make no bones about it. Get out of it. I know that's easier said than done. And I know that there are people who are in situations where they feel like they can't, where they feel like they have no place else to go. But I would ask that you try to look into those shelters and different places that have the resources where you can get the help that you need. All right, so we have him on both, on both Instagram and Facebook.
Hey, babe.
Hello.
Okay, next time you gotta call my agent. You gotta call my agent for this. This is my second time appearing, so gotta call my agent.
Yeah, I will call your agent another time.
Okay, I can't hear you. Maybe I can hear you from Instagram. I can hear you from Instagram. Okay, you go ahead.
You know what the problem is? I don't have my earphones. That's the problem. So we were talking about this question, and I'm going to go get my earphones. I'm so sorry, you all. But we're talking about this question: how does marriage continue to grow when one person is struggling with depression? I'm going to run and get my earphones. Be right back. And if you can take it over for a moment.
Wow. Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Reverend Dr. Wayne and Weathers. I am the husband of, I'm going to say Reverend Doctor. I'm sorry. I just came on after coming out of another meeting, so I'm glad to be with you again on Mind and Mental. Hey, Ebony, how you doing? God bless each and every one of you that is here. I think, just to start out, as my wife was asking a question about how do you make marriage work when when a spouse is at war or battling depression. I believe that love conquers all. Let me start right there. We love not just the great things about the person, but we also love the imperfections of the individual as well. I think for us, one, we put God first, and two, we were best friends before we actually became an item, became a couple, and then engaged in matrimony. You got me? And that time period for us where, don't get me wrong, I was attracted to her when I first met her. She turned me down, y'all. That was traumatic. I had to get a whole bunch of therapy because of that. Yeah, she turned me down. And because she was on her way to North Carolina. So yeah, she turned me down, and I'm still crying about that right now. But no, that was the best thing that happened because we became friends. When I'm talking about friends, she became like one of the fellas that I could talk to. And before I really was walking with Jesus Christ, I would talk to her like I was talking to one of the brothers I was hanging out with on the corner. Language and everything. I could talk to her about young ladies I was dating. She could talk to me about guys that she got guys. And there was a lot of gentlemen that took her out on a date, etc. And she says, I'm going in and out. Let me go back to, I took my headphones off. Yeah, so we were just, we were able to talk as friends, without being judged. And so that really helped out in regards to the relationship. How do you make it work when one is battling or at war with depression? You have to be very intentional about, I guess, how both is going to get through. I can speak for myself. I was intentional to get help to improve. You got me? Because you fell off IG. I don't know what happened. The thing keeps going around in a circle. Let me just put my thing on Wi-Fi.
Okay.
Hold on just a second.
Sorry, you guys. We're having some technical technical difficulties here.
Yeah, I don't know what's it keeps, there's like a circle keep going around Instagram like a pause. I went on Wi-Fi and it still is acting up. So I think it's going to rejoin. Let me exit out and just exit back in.
Okay.
Let exit. How can you exit out and exit back in? Let me exit out.
We understood. We understood what you meant. So
y'all better leave my Android. Y'all better leave my Android alone.
IG family, just hold on for 1 second, please. I'm so sorry. Please drop in the chat where you're tuning in from so that we can see where you're tuning in from.
Invite me back in, Instagram.
Okay, hasn't popped back up yet.
Yeah.
Can you do the request again?
I didn't do the request the first time. It just, you sent me the request. I never did a request.
Oh, well, I guess it did it by itself.
Yeah.
Oh man. Good evening, everybody. I'm sorry, we're having just a little bit of technical difficulty here. And okay, let me just try to get you back in here. Here we go. All right, here we go. All right.
All right, there we go. Just
You made a mistake and dialed me instead.
yeah. Well, it came in and then it said request, and
Oh
then
my gosh, okay, now that made the live end. All right, you guys, I'm so sorry. um, I'm going to try to go back live again. For some reason, it came in like you were calling me, and that kind of messed it up.
okay, all right.
Okay. Oh,
It's still active. This just means it's a good subject.
it
See,
does.
all right, so try again. I just hit the hang up button. All right. So I didn't just came in and just messed everything up, huh?
You see, you said it. I didn't.
No, you're gonna tell me after. You're gonna tell me afterwards. So
Oh, I think the IG fam is gonna have to I may have to just because it's just really not letting me do anything here.
yeah,
Okay,
so
let me just close out of my Instagram and come back in.
yeah, that's exactly what I had to do.
Oh, it's such a good okay, here we go.
Well, it started with the bad connection, and then one thing led to another. So again, so when someone's the question that was raised about marriage and battling or at war with depression and everything, I would say there has to be an intentionality to improve. And when you see, my wife would tell you, I am the ultimate perfectionist. Sometimes it could be a blessing, and other times it could be a burden. You know what I mean? I am the ultimate perfectionist. And so, being the ultimate perfectionist, I'm always every day seeking to improve myself. I'm never satisfied in certain aspects of myself because I'm always seeking to improve. And that's a good thing because I never want to get comfortable and stagnant in my walk and in my marriage. So I don't always want to think that I'm there and I arrived. I'm always seeking for self-improvement and guidance. You know what I mean? And so
Yeah.
and so when I was at war, not and when I still am, when I started to see the intensity of the depression that I was engaging in, I'm going to be candid with you, I knew I had to make a significant change because if I was on this particular road, not only was I going to sink deeper into a hole, but I can see, and my wife always say, you're a great strategist. I could see the negative impact that it could. It wasn't at the time that it could had or have on my marriage. And that's the one thing I did not want it to cause damage in my marriage or cause my marriage just to be lost, period. So I was very intentional. Now, I didn't do it like, oh, I need to prove to Reverend Weathers that I can, that I'm going to get therapy to please her. No, I had to do it for myself. I had to do it for
Yeah, and
myself.
so one of the things that I was mentioning earlier was the need for us to recognize that marriage, it intentionally involves two people coming together, and that both people have to be willing to put effort into the marriage. It can't be one-sided. And so with your being able to recognize that you needed help and being determined to get that help, then that helped me to be able to say, yeah, I want to keep the marriage going and I want to, help in any way that I can, um, help get through the situation. And so it took both of us, it took the desire for both of us to put into the marriage what is needed for a marriage to grow, even in the midst of mental health challenges, even in the midst of depression. um, he might have had depression, but depression didn't have him. And he, having that willingness and desire to want to get help, to want to get better, actually, made me happy and made me want to hang in there um, with him. And it's genuine love. We actually were best friends and are best friends. And that sounds corny and cliche,
Well, no, it's not.
but it's actually true.
It's actually true. And one, if I could just add also, it's not just getting therapy that's the key. It's applying what has been discussed by your therapist. See, there's one thing of going in and getting therapy, but if you go in and don't apply what you learned, then it's self-defeating. I was intentional that when I went in, when I was told that one of the challenges that you're facing is you have a fatalistic mentality. And that kind of scared me. Like, I'm thinking, yo, I ain't suicidal, but fatalistic mentality is when you look at something that's 20% and you blow it up like it's 80% when it's really only 20%. So then when I'm starting to get revved up over something that, not in our marriage, but something, someone cut me off, or I'm getting into a debate with someone and I'm really like, I got to prove the point that you wrong and I'm coming at you because I was pushed around a lot when I was a kid. Or if something was really just getting me depressed and I'm feeling like, wow, the whole world is against me. Then when a therapist said, you are looking at it from a perspective of what you see is really only 20% of the problem, but you're blowing it up like it's 80%. And I remember my first therapist, Pastor Mike, he says, you have to look at it from an aerial view, like an airplane. He says, at the surface level, everything seems so big, but when you rise up, you'll see how small it is. And to tie that into my former pastor, Bishop Heber and Brown, something he said in a sermon I listened to back in July, he said, your altitude would determine your attitude. So meaning that when situations occur, how far you rise up is going to your attitude. Your attitude determines your altitude. So if your attitude remains at a lower level, then your altitude is going to be low. But if your attitude is going to be at a higher level, then you're going to reach a higher level as well, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. And so I had to learn how to adjust how I saw things, because from a traumatic experience, I've seen this growing up, in a household, and it's not negative or anything, when you have those who in their social locations saw things from a fatalistic perspective because of trauma in their lifehood, and then that gets transferred over into a childhood that then blossoms into adulthood. I had to go back and readjust, and I'm gonna be very candid with you. I had to break curses, period.
Yeah.
I had to break curses. Yeah.
Amen. So we have a question that says, is it beneficial that both parties get therapy, even though only one person is struggling with depression? So I'm going to take a stab at that question and say, yes, I think it is beneficial. I'm sorry, is there an echo? Is my sound okay on both IG and Facebook? Okay,
You're
I'm
good.
good.
I only turn off the mic so that you don't pick up your voice from the IG from my telephone.
Okay, got it. All right. So yeah, I'm still hearing it myself, but that's okay. So for me, I realized, as I said earlier, because we're one, and when he's down and when he's feeling depressed, I also get down and depressed. I didn't realize the impact that it was really having on me until one time I was having lunch with a dear friend of mine, and we were in a room full of people, and we were just catching up with each other, talking about each other's kids and how we're doing. We hadn't seen each other in a little bit. And out of the blue, I just started bawling. I mean, just bawling, crying, like for no apparent reason. And so I really, at that point, realized I need some therapy myself. And so I actually did try therapy, and actually I'm getting ready to go back into therapy. That time, that particular therapist just wasn't a good fit. But I do think that it's a good idea and beneficial for both parties to get therapy, because when you are, you know, dealing with one person's trauma, you'll start to realize that you might have had some trauma in your own life too, that sort of comes up for you in certain situations within the marriage. And so I think it is beneficial. What about you, babe?
This, we talked about this most definitely. The eye opener for me was your book. And I did not realize how much you were trying to hold up for me. And yet my situation was draining you, draining your energy. And that's not negative, that's just reality. And I didn't realize it at the time because you provided this picture like you were okay in the midst of me not being okay. But the reality was you wasn't okay. My stuff was affecting you, but you felt you had to be strong for me. You got me?
Yeah.
And so when I learned in the book how much, and when I say drain, please, for those who are listening, not like, Negro, will you please just stop? You're just getting on my last nerve. Not that type, not that type of a drain. It was like, you're trying to be strong for me, carrying my stuff and carrying your stuff at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I had to learn, and please hear, just because your spouse appears to be strong don't mean that they don't get worn down. And you have to be very judicious and discern that just as much as you have your challenges, they have their challenges dealing with your challenges, if that makes any sense. So I had to learn how to adjust and not always lean on you for the strength of my trauma.
Yeah.
Even in the midst of, before having a therapist and after having a therapist. So I've had to learn how to be balanced with that. Now, the flip side of that is when you've had to minister to me and check me as well, I got to a point where I didn't want to bring anything to you. And I remember you saying, no, we're in this together. And I remember when your mom passed, or my mom and mother-in-law, your mom passed, I felt like I could not grieve my mother because I had to be there for you. And we were both going through the same thing at the same time. And again, I felt like if I started to grieve or show my grief, I'm spilling my stuff on you, and you were going through the same experience. And I remember you kept saying, no, you don't have to hold back. You're in pain, I'm in pain. This is a shared experience. But in my mind, I'm like, I can't share this because I don't want to drain you as you are going through the grieving process.
Yeah. And I think the important thing to keep in mind with that is that it takes both. So it's also my responsibility to say when I'm drained. And it took me a while to learn that, and to learn and to be okay, to give myself permission to say to you, I can't handle that right now. And but then in those times when I can handle it, bring it on. um, but I think that's where it's important for both to communicate to each other what our needs are at the time. And if there is a time that you are dealing with something, you're having a bout of depression, and if it's at a time where I'm overwhelmed and can't really deal with what's happening, I need to be able to say, I can't handle it right now. I'm gonna pray for you, but right now I need to kind of step back, regroup for myself. I need to put the oxygen mask on myself, and then I'm gonna come back and put it on you. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. I wanted to go back also, and let me say this, to say I can't handle this right now because I need to regroup is not rejection. It's
Mhm.
retooling and refueling, if that makes any
Yes.
sense.
Yes.
So your people like, oh, did she say that? Oh,
Yes.
why would she say something like that? He got depression. That ain't right. No, no. So it sounds funny and kind of corny-ish in a way, but no, that somebody might take that the wrong way. No, it's not rejection. It's saying I want to be there for you, but at this moment I can't because I need to retool and refuel so I can be there to help guide you through this situation. So
Right.
it's not like, Negro, just go watch a football game or something. I'll get back with you in about a couple hours. No, it's not like that. It's knowing your limitations and
Mhm.
being able to say, at this point, I need to retool, I need to refresh, I need to get myself together, etc. You never pushed me off and said, I don't want to deal with this. I'm tired of dealing with this. I never got
Yeah.
that. Now going back, someone asked a question about marriage. I never forget, oh God, I lost a job at the nonprofit, and I had some trauma going into that position that spilled over in that position. You got me,
Mhm.
which positioned me for folks to ask for my resignation. You got me. And so when I lost the job, and it was a great life lesson for me as well, because I came out of, for those, I'm walking on eggshells, just a quick backdrop. I came out of a professional situation where I was told, it's not funny, but it was humiliating to wear a clown uniform at an event, a Marriott event, at a new account, because this is how you move up in corporate America. And I put that clown uniform on, and my
Mhm.
own people at the time, A Living Color was out. They had the person Homie the Clown. The brothers and sisters was calling me Honky the Clown. Yeah,
Mhm.
Honky the Clown.
Yeah.
And then when I went to another account, as I tried to move up, I faced racism one-on-one when I switched from healthcare to corporate America, corporate service. I faced racism one-on-one, and we lost the contract. So as I sacrificed my dignity
Mhm.
to move up, we lost the contract, and I never moved up for sacrificing my dignity. And I said, after that experience, ain't no way I'm gonna play that game again. So I went into another setting, more rambunctious, more confrontational with those I report to because of the traumatic experience of being called, not Homie the Clown, but excuse the expression, Honky the Clown.
Mhm.
So now I lost the job and had to regroup and retool, going through a depression again. You're rejected. You're not good enough. And I'll never forget, I looked at some pictures. We were facing some financial challenges. And I saw a picture of you when you were single, your dad, your brother, and you were in
Right.
Detroit. I think it was on a Progressive National Baptist Convention trip.
Mhm.
Hair, clothes, not that you were bumming everything. You was getting your hair done like almost every week. We get married. You went from getting your hair done bi-weekly to now with daycare, student loans, mortgage, etc., getting your hair done once a month. And I'm feeling less than because I'm not bringing in the finances. This is depression spill over into the marriage. And I never forget, you know where I'm going. Out of nowhere, I came to you and said, I don't deserve a woman like you. And you looked at me and said, why would you say something like that? And I said to you, before we got married, you was able to have money, outfits, hair done, etc. I don't deserve a woman like you. And then you fired back and said, oh, well, what was that? You was like, well, let me set the record straight. And I was like, oh boy, here's excuse the expression. Here's the Black Woman National Anthem. I'm getting ready to get it now. I was like, I'm getting ready to get it now. She's getting ready to confirm all of my insecurities. I was waiting for it.
I'm about to do a first of all.
Yeah, first of all, that's exactly what you did. I'm like, that's exactly, you just said, let me set the record straight. That's exactly, you said, well, first of all, and I was like, okay, here it comes. You ain't bringing in no money. You know, you broke, and you're supposed to be help paying the bills, and you can't find a job, and you can't do this, and you can't do that. And all of this was tied into the depression that I wouldn't get treated for. And then when I heard the first of all, I just turned up. I says, okay, here comes the tongue lashing. And the next thing came out your mouth was, well, first of all, I was living at home with my mother. And so, yes, I could get my hair done. I could get the clothes because I was living at home with my mother. But then you said, and I say this, getting ready to tear up, at the lowest point in my life, you said, but you are giving me something that money can't buy, and that's love. And I never forget, you said, if I had the choice between money and love, I'll take love any day. And you said, you love me unconditionally. And you says, I know some women, some of my friends, they may have all the money in the world, but they're unhappy. Their husbands is cheating on them. They're not happy, etc. She says, you give me what money can't buy, and that's love. And you said, I'd rather have love than have money.
Yeah. And it wasn't just love though. It was unconditional love. And
Exactly.
it was a love that was real. Like you loved me for who I am. Didn't try to change me into somebody else.
Still do.
Or, want me to be something else other than who I am.
Well, I want you to be a Eagles fan, but we can talk about.
That's not going to happen.
Still love you.
I don't even know why you brought that bird up on Mind the Mental, but we're going to just skirt over that.
Oh,
we're not going to air our dirty laundry.
now I'm really depressed. I'm calling my therapist tomorrow.
But but this is the other thing. If you're at war with depression, but it's not always doom and gloom, So when we're laughing like this and joking like this is kind of who we are. And then when we have those times where depression kicks in, we know that it's not going to always be there, because he's going to be intentional to get the therapy that he might need. I'm going to be intentional in my prayers, as I have been our almost 30 years together now. And we're going to put it together. We're going to put Jesus and therapy together and get through it. So that has really helped us, I think. So for those of you that are just joining, we're talking about a question that somebody asked when we did our live last week. How does a marriage continue to grow when one person is struggling with depression? And the way that we continue to grow is that we are both intentional about keeping the marriage and, doing whatever it is that we need to do to get help that we might need, or whatever the case might be, to make sure the marriage is strengthened. And the other thing is that we're intentional about spending time together, spending time with one another. And we're both very busy. We both have very busy schedules, but we have to take those times to just be to ourselves and just spend time in each other's presence.
If I can add also,
you can call me Benita.
Benita, yes. I really want to call you babe, but I don't want nobody else calling you.
You can call me that too.
What people have to understand with us is depression should not stop you from growing if you allow it to stop you. Mm-hmm. In our situation, I was determined when I saw that it was a challenge within me, didn't know the impact that it was having on my wife and my kids. But when I saw that it was the impact that it was having on me, I know that I needed to get help, but the help, check this out, positioned me to grow.
Mhm.
I became a better father and a better husband when I got therapy. Now, for those that don't know, I thought, and I shared this probably a year or two ago in another setting, virtual setting that you were hosting. I thought that the depression was a post-traumatic experience from a pastoral incident when two former members that I was pastoring got an argument. They were related at one of the members' house, and one of the members pulled out a gun and shot the person, and he died 18 days later. At that point, I should have gotten therapy because it was very traumatic to watch them pull him off of life support, and he transitioned from labor to reward, and then have to go into the house where he was shot to minister to the person who pulled the trigger. So I thought that was the catalyst of the deep depression. My first therapist, Pastor Mike, traced it back to childhood, because I literally said it's a result of that incident. And so then that's when he says, take me through your childhood. Tell me your family history, your father's history, your mother's history, etc. And that's when I realized, not knowing, because I've been taught my whole life to suppress emotions, that I've had a lot of trauma that I've witnessed from childhood to adulthood. Some of the trauma I'll share, some of the trauma I choose not to share. And for those who know me or thought they knew of me, they don't even know the extent of trauma. I'm not going to say it's no, that's because there I go again. I'm trying to minimize my experience to maximize somebody else. Even my current therapist right now says you've had a lot of trauma in your life. And that is the trash bag that I brought into the marriage, because if you don't take trash out, it funks up the whole entire place.
Yes, absolutely. So this has been, a good, robust conversation. So some nuggets to take away from this. Again, how does marriage continue to grow when one person is struggling with depression? It takes two to tango. It takes both to be willing to get the therapy that's might be needed, to recognize that nobody in a relationship is perfect. We both have our own issues. We both come from different backgrounds, and we come with our own stuff. And each person has some stuff that they have to deal with. And it's important to be intentional for each person to deal with their stuff while they're also cultivating their relationship, while they're also building and growing their marriage. And that's that word that I say every week, my favorite word, intentionality. You got to be intentional about it. Because when you're not intentional about it, any little thing can just make you say, I'm out. Any little thing can just make you give up. And so we have been determined to not give up. And again, I don't want it to sound like I'm trying to come down on people who may have had experienced divorce. Why? Because I am in a situation where I'm not abused in any way, verbally nor physically. And also, I'm in a relationship with someone who recognized when he needed help, and who is always trying to better himself without me saying. So one of the things I love about my husband is that when I say something, the way that he shows that he has listened is that the next time he's going to change. He's going to show that he's changed. So for example, earlier in our marriage, I think I mentioned to him, because he's the kind of person that has to have everything A, B, C, D, like everything got to be in a row. And I'm the kind of person that sometimes I'm just like, I just want to be spontaneous. Like, let's just, go to the beach or whatever. And so he usually has to map everything out to the T. and and so I was like, come on, babe, sometimes just be spontaneous. And then a couple of weeks later, he came home and he was like, come on, let's go. I think it was, I don't know, to the beach or someplace. He was like, come on, let's go down, let's drive down to the beach. And I was like, what? We didn't make any plans for that. And then he said to me, he was like, I was listening. So he's the kind that's not going to just talk about it. He's going to be about it. And so being in a marriage with a person like that makes it that much easier when, you realize, or you put in the effort to make those changes. And I'm going to be really honest. I'm not that good. I'm not. I'm not. I don't feel like I'm not that good to like just kind of change things about me that probably need to be changed
I think
in the
I think
marriage.
I think because no, I think I give yourself more credit than that. And I'm not saying that because we're live. I've seen certain things that you have worked on. I don't think you give yourself, I think you're a little too hard on yourself. Well, you haven't, the one thing you haven't changed is that ugly
We're
bird.
not bringing that green bird
We're
up.
gonna bring that
We're not
bird
bringing
up.
that green bird
Yeah,
up no
we're
more.
gonna have an
There's
argument. We're
only
gonna have an
purple
argument. We're gonna
birds
have an argument on
here.
social media. But no,
Purple and black. That's it.
all jokes aside, I know there are things that we talked about that you have, and it's not, I don't consider it was that deep, but there's certain things we talked about. There are times we talked about, and I say, hey, this is kind of the stuff that I may not agree with or may have bothered me. And I've seen the change in, instantaneously. It's not like I'm coming across, you need to do this because I'm the man and you the wife and you listen. No, it wasn't that. But there are things I've shared with you just as much as you shared with me. And for those who are like, oh, what did y'all talk about? Not y'all business, but it wasn't that deep to even talk. It's not even that deep. On a scale from 1 to 10, it was probably a 3 or 4, but we talked about it. And the change, my cousin Vic laughed, the change, it came. So I really believe that you have to give yourself a little bit more, a little bit more credit. If I didn't, but me, I'm just straight up. If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be saying it. And I'm not saying that for the cameras also. I'm not saying that for the cameras. I think one of the biggest things also that's been a blessing for us, and I know you remember this, when we got married, I said to you, I said, there's one thing that I will not do in this marriage.
Mhm.
I said, I will not use words to disrespect you.
Yep.
I said, that's what I said to you. I said,
Mhm.
if I lose $5, I can get it back. If I lose $10, I can get it back. I said, but whatever words I say that comes out of my mouth, once it comes out of my mouth, I can't take it back.
Can't take it back.
And I said to you on day one, I said, if we ever get to a point where we are disagreeing about something, and I say that I just need to step away, I'm stepping away just to think, because I don't want it going to another level where I come across where I'm disrespecting you.
Mhm.
And that has been, I'm not saying I'm perfect, anything, because again, I don't focus on what's not right with you, etc. I always look at myself. So I'm not gonna sit up and say I'm perfect, but there are times we never really had major arguments.
Mhm.
If we can only count them on one finger. Not one finger, one hand.
One hand. Yeah.
One finger, one hand. And that doesn't mean that the marriage is perfect or anything, but we're really saying this on the bottom of my heart. It's not that it's been like on one hand, not both, one hand, maybe one or two in 30 years. Many people can't say that, but that's because we both were intentional, that we were determined that we would not say anything that disrespect us. If we have to step away, we'll step away,
Yeah.
and then we'll come back and talk about it.
Yeah, that's one thing I can say for sure. We both have a mutual respect. Even with you calling me Reverend Weathers.
Yeah, it's
I
just
mean,
out there.
it is. And when we're in the church, he's Pastor Weathers, because I respect him. He's my husband, but I respect him as my pastor. And so he does the same thing. Minister Ebony said, respect her and get an iPhone. So it's two wars that we have at our house. I'm a Ravens fan, and he's some other bird fan, and he's an Android phone owner, and everybody else in the house are iPhone.
So, and let me share with y'all, and this is what she loves about me, but this is also what drives her crazy about me also. I'm the type, this is crazy, I've always been like this. I gotta be different. So if the crowd is gonna go to the right, I'm gonna go to the left. If the crowd is gonna go to the left, I'm gonna go to the right. Before our kids got older and moved out, everybody in the house got iPhones. And I literally said, I gotta be different because I'm not gonna follow the trend that everybody else is following. So I intentionally got an Android. And then when I tried to switch over to an iPhone 2 years ago, they said it would not be advantageous for you to switch over to an iPhone because all of your content is on Android and the transfer is going to be difficult. Yeah.
But I love that you're different.
Yep. Yeah.
One of the things that I do love about you, that you are unique, and you're beautifully unique, and I love that.
Yeah, and we got to talk to you about. I do have a problem. Your manager, Joy Hall, #Ravens. We need to
I
talk
saw
about
that.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. We need to talk. That's
# Ravens all day.
Yeah. No, just
right.
for this meeting.
Okay. Well, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to Mind the Mental Monday tonight. Remember to tune in.
So, excuse me. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Have you announced the other services that you provide?
Oh, I have not.
Why don't you close out by, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, and also save the date for your book. So share with our audience your services that you provide. So you just don't do Mind and Mental. You also want to share with them other things in case they want to be blessed by services that you offer.
I appreciate that. Other services that I offer, I am a life coach. And that's something I really enjoy doing, working with people one-on-one to get to the next level of where they're trying to go. And I'm also an editor. So all of you who are budding authors out there, and you need an editor, or if you're working on a dissertation, I also do dissertations. So look me up. You'll see it all in my Instagram or Facebook. And we also, on November 4th, I am going to be reintroducing the Scream Within: Mental Health and Clergy Marriages, Journey of a Pastor's Spouse, my book. It's been out for about going on 2 years now. But I never really released it in a way. So I really just want to reintroduce it for some of you who may not have read it or knew that it even existed. So thank you all again for tuning in. I hope you tune in next week. If you missed it, or if you missed part of it, you'll be able to find it on my YouTube channel at Benita Weathers 329. In fact, go over there right now and subscribe. Subscribe. So you'll be able to see all the Mind the Mental Mondays over there if you need to see the replay. I hope this has been a blessing. I'm not even sure if the person who asked that question last week got to see this week. I hope you did. Thank you for the question. It really deserved a whole episode. So thank you so much. And give it some stars. Share if you think this content is helpful. Please share it with your networks, and let me know what you think. All right. Be blessed, and I'll see you next Monday, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, right here on Facebook Live and IG Live. Take care and good night.
Good night.